Hi, learner lovers. This is Tracy. Again, another episode of Totally Not Taboo. This is where we discuss everything around sex and sexuality that is considered taboo. So today's episode, I am interviewing our lovely Mistress Salsa. And Mistress Salsa is going to take us through BDSM. And I've actually interviewed you before, where you brought along your accessories that you use in your dungeon. So unfortunately this time we can't actually see them, but maybe to our audience it'll give you an opportunity to go along to Mistress Salsa's dungeon and see for yourself, experience for yourself the actual literal experience that she gives you, which is very, very unique and tailored to your needs or what she thinks that you need in this area. So I'm just going to read a little bit of her bio. Mistress Salsa is Mistress Salsa, professional dominatrix, lifestyle femdom, disciplinarian, sadist, sissy transformer, school headmistress, key holder, and Temptress, which I'm looking forward to hearing all about. Whether you seek intense domination or a sensual fetish session, you will find Mistress versatile and open-minded, at times elegant and classy, but able to whisper tantalizingly sexy commands, and other times enjoying my slaves and submissives' degradation, humiliation, and pain. Power exchange is my primary turn-on, and the scent of blood an aphrodisiac. I embrace my dark side. The eroticism of BDSM extends to power over men, women, and trans of all ethnicities, ages, and nationalities. The key to my dungeon being respect. I control the scene and instruct couples, slaves, submissives, and human pets' minds and bodies for my amusement and satisfaction. So welcome, Mistress Salsa, again to my podcast.
Thank you, Tracy. It's lovely to be back.
Fantastic. So what I would love for you to do for our audience is to just give a broad idea about what BDSM is. And then I want to hear from you about your special services that you offer as Mistress Salsa, which is a very unique offering, a unique service. But we'll get to that. So tell the audience a little bit more about you.
Right, hi. I'm, as you heard, Mistress Salsa, and I have a very discreet suburban house, which when you drive past, no one would ever guess what was hidden inside. But BDSM is all about embracing your fantasies and kinks, and this is a place where you can come and live those out without anyone ever knowing what you're embracing and getting up to. Of course, there are more public platforms and parties and so on that you could go to, but in my space, it's for your professionals and so on that want to have something removed and private and upmarket and something a lot of germaphobes ask about, obviously very hygienic too.
Yeah. I actually remember visiting your dungeon, and it was quite an amazing experience and an eye-opener for me, because not really being exposed to BDSM before and not really understanding what it's all about was quite an eye-opener. And you took me through all the rooms, explaining in a lot of detail about what goes on there. Maybe you can just go through what BDSM stands for.
Sure. So BDSM is bondage, domination, sadomasochism,
Okay.
which basically encompasses, as I mentioned, all your fetishes. And there are so many, it's endless.
Yeah.
And one just has to decide what their starting point is, whether you are a seasoned fetishist or whether you are just dabbling in this and just getting started, and how far you want to go. I find, for me, I've always been kinky. I've always been a bit of a temptress. I found that I could just have the right little gesture and people would look very interested and react in a certain way to me, and that was obviously very heady and led to the power exchange dynamic for me.
So is this something that you had to learn? You said that you were naturally driven towards the dark side, the naturally feeling tantalizing and kinky. Was it something that how did you get into it?
It was always a fascination for me from quite an early age. I think most of the people that come to me that are true fetishists say that this is something that was with them from an early age and has always been with them. As far as the skills, technique, etc., that is something that you learn. There are people that are specialized in different fields and caning and so on, and you need to learn how to do it properly, because if you just go along to somebody that has a stick and picks it up and whacks you all over, that's not what this is about. There are certain areas of the body that should never be struck. You need to know, my work is very neat. So generally, if you look at my caning, it doesn't go too high, your coccyx is up there. It doesn't go to the sides because that's called wrapping, and that is where your bursae is and can cause bursitis. So you want to, mine looks like a little square on that bum. It's in a very particular area. If you're flogging, you want to flog on the upper back, where you've got your trapezium muscles, so that you're hitting on that area. You don't want to go too low. You're going to get down to your kidneys and so on. There are certain techniques that you have to learn, and there are masters and mistresses that have a lot of experience in this, and I've watched and I've gone to them and I've learned how to do all these things, and I've learned watching some things how to not do things, and then the naturalness is my kinky mind, my fascination and my love for it, my persona. That's the natural part. The techniques and skills have to be very carefully honed. And my creativity in coming up with a scene that matches each person and what their techniques are. No two people are ever alike. One person might come for a caning and they want it done in a particular way, in this way, and someone might want it done a different way. Some people say, please don't hit my sweet spot. It's that delicious spot just below your buttocks at the top of your legs. It's particularly painful to hit there. It's my favorite spot to smack you on because it hurts. I love that.
I love that. So what I'm interested, so firstly, before I get to my own personal question, my curiosity is getting there. What is the point of hitting those particular spots? Is it a sexual response? Is it for each, and you said no two individuals are the same. But is that, okay, I'm not going to assume anything. I'm going to ask you to just answer that. What is the point of those floggings or the paddle on the backside?
Your pain receptors release endorphins, adrenaline, and so on. That all your heady concoction of hormones that give you a high and make you feel absolutely amazing. You can go into subspace from these hormones, which is a floaty sort of a sensation that makes you feel amazing. And you don't need any other means that some people lean on in order to deal with your daily stresses of life. It just lifts you into another amazing space, and it removes you from your everyday life of work and the stresses of money or kids or whatever, taking you into a very sexy space. A lot of people get highly aroused by this, and it obviously doesn't have to include pain. Sensual BDSM is a very strong thing. A lot of people say, I don't like pain, I don't want any of that. The misconception is that everybody that is involved in BDSM wants pain. That's not the case. A lot of them come to me and they don't. Some of them just are naturally submissive and they are judged for that. So this is a place of no judgment. You can just come and be yourself, put down all these pretenses and things that we have to go out there and show our brave face to the world. Come and relax and just be you. And if you're naturally submissive, I find that extremely sexy. I like to... I find that people think that a dominatrix has to be domineering and strict and cruel all the time. Some of my clients come because they want somebody caring and nurturing, and you don't imagine that a dominatrix can be that. But as an intelligent, and I like to think evolved woman, I'm able to read a person, climb into their mind, see what works for them, and offer different things to different people.
I love that. That is such a beautiful explanation for me, not having dabbled in BDSM. And that really explains what happens to the body, the hormones, and to understand what is in it for the client, really. And I remember from our last conversation, some of your clients are already out there in the big wide world, already the boss, the CEO, they're already in very dominant roles in their lives. And when they come to you, they enjoy being submissive.
So you get those that are very high-powered and dominant and leaders in their fields, and they want to just come and lay that down for a bit and be able to relax and have somebody else in charge and calling the shots, if you want to say that. And then there are others that are naturally submissive, and they are, especially men, are judged for being that. We think that everybody ought to beat their chest and be macho and masculine. That's not the case. Not everybody is. And we're all have a bit of a whole lot of those things in us. Sometimes you are and sometimes you're not. So here you can just be yourself. You don't have to be that. But yes, I do have a lot of high-powered architects, surgeons, CEOs that come through to me and just want to kiss my feet, worship my body, and crawl or be put on a collar and leash and bow down to Mistress.
Sure, incredible. The question that I also had is that my understanding of BDSM is that it can be a very sexually charged, playful experience. And it can also be a mind-body experience. And what I mean by that is, in terms of your dominance, your dominatrix, it's almost like a mind play. You're playing with the mind. Some people come to you for discipline around a certain area of their sexuality. But I want you to tell me, the audience about that more. In terms of the sexuality side, do your clients come to get off on this experience? Is it a sexual need response, whatever it is that they're looking for, that they actually want to orgasm? Is that their motivation?
Some of them want to come through for a sexual experience, and this is a very sexy thing to do. It's mostly driven by the mind. More evolved people tend to dabble in this. It is more of a handing over of yourself and immersing yourself in an experience. It's not necessarily sexual. It can be very sensual. I don't offer sex. There are plenty of other people that are in that profession. That's not my profession.
Talk to me about your job as a mistress. Tell me more about what is unique about you.
I've created this amazing space that I just love to be in, where people come and worship and bow down to me and, as I said, have different experiences. So let me take you through my dungeon. When you drive in, nobody would expect or know where you're going, but you come around the wall, a little secret entrance, and the first thing you'll see is a suspension rig, which is in the garden, because I offer garden play. Garden play can be amazing. That hot sun on your bare, nude skin is very sexy. Or I might stick you out in the cold and peg you to the ground, or tie you to a tree and make you drink from a dog bowl. Who knows? Whatever mistress has in mind for that day. But there's a suspension rig, and there you'll step into my entrance room, where you sit on the leather couch, and I have these beautiful velvet drapes, and you sit and discuss with mistress what your fantasies are and what your purpose is for coming to see me. We would discuss boundaries and limits. So some people, we have what we call hard limits and soft limits. And your hard limits are things that you know that you will never want to do. I don't, as I mentioned, I don't have sex with my clients. There are certain things that I don't do. I don't do scat.
What is scat?
It's feces. So a lot of people are turned on by that. It's definitely not for mistress. But there are lots of things that I do enjoy. So we would discuss your soft limits, things that you might be willing to try. But aren't quite sure whether you're going to like them or not. And then it could be added to your I absolutely love that list or your hard limits list. And surprisingly, things that you thought that you're not sure that you'd actually like, can become your firm favorites. And things that you thought you'd love can go onto your hard limits list. And people evolve as well. So what the person that first steps into this, and when you first step in, it's so heady and exciting. You want to rush at everything and try everything. But what turns you on in the beginning might not be the thing that ultimately is exciting and interesting you. We evolve as we go through this. So we would discuss your limits, your safe word. A safe word, for those that don't know, is something that is totally sacrosanct and means that all play comes to an abrupt halt. And generally, you won't need a safe word. I read your body language. I've listened to your breathing. I feel your skin. I'm watching you very carefully to create that amazing experience for you, and that we can both have as much excitement and enjoyment out of your session as possible. I know that you say that it's all for mistress's pleasure, or a lot of people do, but obviously this needs to be mutually exciting. Your safe word is something that if you are feeling dizzy or something's not going right, you call your safe word and it will stop all play. So the slave or the submissive or the pet has the power at the end of the day, because I won't do anything that you're not enjoying. That would be abusive, and that's not what this is.
So can you give me an example? I know everybody has their own limits according to hard or soft fantasies. What is an example of a soft, what would you call a fantasy? Something soft that they'd like to enact or experience?
So soft limit is not a mild experience. A soft limit is something that you're not sure that you want to, whether you're going to love it or not. But in answer to your question, something mild would be a light spanking or tying you up and teasing you. Getting back to what you were asking about the sexual experience, some people want to have a release, and orgasms are something that I love to watch, and from both men and women in my dungeon. Others don't want to. They want the control and be told they're not allowed to have a release. So tying up a blindfold, when I put the blindfold on, all your other senses are heightened. And so you're listening very carefully to everything that's going on. You're wondering what on earth mistress has going on in my diabolical mind. What am I cooking up for you next and going to inflict on you? And that is that is something soft as a blindfold or a very light flogging, something like that, tying you up and making you helpless and taking you into a different space because now you can't do anything and you're at my mercy. So that would be a soft experience. But let's step back a little bit.
Yes.
So we're going back to my dungeon.
Yes, your dungeon, yes.
So there are a few other things that go into that initial discussion, and from there we go through. My first room is the torture chamber.
Yes.
And in there I have whips and chains and rope and a St. Andrew's cross and cages and a prison cell and all sorts of wonderful things that I can tie you up and put a collar. A collar shows that you are now under my control.
Right.
And it also gives a sense of belonging to a lot of people. Take you into the torture chamber where we can do all these things. I have a red light, so it creates an ambiance in that room, and a huge mirror that you can watch everything that's going on. Some people like to be watched. It's called exhibitionism, and some like to watch. So I have a bay window where I can put someone in the corner and they can watch, or maybe bring them in. Perhaps if you're blindfolded and you suddenly feel a second pair of hands on your body, that's also quite exciting. Then I have a schoolroom, and the schoolroom has got your school desk, your mirrors to watch your caning. It's got everything from the school bell to a beautiful old historic map. Mistress dresses up appropriately, and I give you a good scolding, 6 of the best, often more than 6 because I do love caning, and leaving sexy stripes all over your bum. Some people, for very obvious reasons, don't want any marks on their bums, and so that is also possible. And I will give you a good scolding and caning and send you on your way. Some of those also want to release at the end because they are highly aroused by it, and I do love to do that. People say, do you like doing this or that? I only do what I love, and I love so many diverse things, but I do love it. So from there, we step into the boudoir room, and the boudoir room has got a 4-poster bed with all sorts of things like nipple clamps and a hog tie, leather hog ties, and things hanging from the bed, and a cage under it, and another St. Andrew's cross, and a massage table that I can tie you down to. And sometimes I'll put someone on the cross looking through, watching what's going on the bed. Some people, I have a man who likes to bring his wife, and I do things to her whilst he sits and just watches. Others, couples, like I love having couples in my dungeon, and I put them in all sorts of different strange positions and tell them what to do to one another.
Oh, I love
and
that.
Lots of orgasms and toys and tie and tease and things like that, and candles, and at the end, if you behave yourselves and please, Mistress, I might even give you a chocolate, which helps with something that we didn't mention after your heady experience, aftercare.
Right.
Aftercare is when all those hormones are settling down. You want to make sure that you don't drop too quickly or you'll go into a low. And so you need someone you may contact Mistress again afterwards, or your partner or whatever, and make sure that you come out of that high slowly, not dropping too quickly. And so chocolates, a bubble bath, a good run, coming back to Mistress, something like that.
Yeah.
What else? So that's that room. And then I have a dressing room, which is for sissification. I love my transvestites and my transgenders and so on, and I can do a full transformation. I even have a RuPaul mirror with all the lights around, and I have cupboards full of clothing, everything from your makeup to your wigs and your shoes and your lingerie, from day wear to sexy evening wear. and I will teach you how to dress appropriately, your posture and pose you. And if you want, some people like photos, some people are wary of photos, so taking some sexy photos, maybe even a bit of byplay. A lot of the girls that come to me love to have a bit of interaction with another trainee or something like that. So we will do the dressing up. I take you out on shopping sprees to buy clothes or buy things for you if you don't have somewhere that you can have your things sent to. Dinners, lunches, all that sort of thing go in for the transvestites and trainees that come to see me. And I do love them. I love when I dress them up and they get this dreamy look in their eyes. I even have a bra that's got breasts, and it feels so lifelike. I close their eyes and let them feel their breasts, and once they feel that they've got these titties on, it's just the most amazing experience. And I see this dreamy look in their eyes. It transports not only them, but me too.
I just have to comment, because we're not visual, but audio, to watch your face brighten up and your beautiful dimples become so much more, so deep in your face when you talk about how much you love all of this. I can get this genuine, sincere feeling from you that you really, really love what you do. It gives you a lot of pleasure, even just talking about it. So I think, if any, that's your uniqueness that you bring to the table. So it's been a real pleasure to watch you. Your whole face is transforming.
Thank you.
Shining. And
this is not a job for me.
Yes.
This is something I'm passionate about.
Yes.
I love to have people come to me, whether I am in that strict and commanding and degrading and humiliating and doing golden showers or making you bark like a dog or whatever it is, crawl around the garden on your all fours and so on, whether I'm dressing you up to be a beautiful woman and locking you in a chastity cage or something like that, or giving you a sensual BDSM experience, or teaching you and your partner. I had 2 ladies come to me recently, and one of them she said she was asexual in the beginning. She hadn't had an orgasm. And by the end of the experience, I'd given them both vibrators to use on one another. And she said she'd come for her partner, but she had the most amazing orgasm, and she looked as if her life had been altered. In fact, those were her words to me afterwards. And it's such a sense of validation. It makes my life feels so worthwhile to be able to watch people going through all these different experiences, and each one gives me such pleasure and joy and excitement. I love the thrill of the power. I'm very cruel. I love blood. As I mentioned, as you read, it's a real aphrodisiac for me, so I'm very cruel.
Yeah.
I like to inflict pain. There I said it. And yes, pain is a real element of BDSM, but there are so many different facets to it. Have you heard of sploshing, Tracy?
No.
Okay, so sploshing is something that it's messy food.
Yes.
I had a transvestite come to me recently who's going through a lot of issues in her life, and I tied her up in very tight bondage, and then I took glad wrap and wrapped it around her face and put my nails in her nose and gouged out so that she could breathe, and for her mouth, and then I took cake and I splattered it all over her. She was covered from head to toe in creamy cherries and jam and cream, and she just loves the messiness of it. And somebody said to me, somebody that's what we call vanilla, somebody that's not really kinky, although I think everybody's got a bit of this in them. But they said to me, why would anybody do that? Because her life is so stressful with an ill family member and all sorts of other things going on, that for 2 hours she came to me. She had no control over what I was doing to her, and she just was totally transformed into another space. And at the end of it, she literally was glowing. She looked 10 years younger, and she was just had dropped all her stresses and was able to go back out there and cope with whatever life was throwing at her again.
Amazing. So it's splashing.
Splashing.
I actually have seen that before. I just didn't know that that was what it was called.
So it's your messy food, and you can do
Yeah.
it with all sorts of things. In fact, there's so many naughty things you can
Yes.
do with food.
Yes, I remember a scene I once watched.
Splashing
yes.
is more about the messiness, but
Yes.
there's with your jams and your chocolate sauce and your I have grapes and your all sorts of things, all sorts of foods. But there are lots of other naughty things that can be done with foods. I won't go
Yes.
into that here.
I think we can
I'll
use
show
our
you in my dungeon.
imagination.
You can use your imagination for that one.
Well, how come you use the Glad wrap?
I was just in the mood for it. You don't have to.
Oh.
I mean, it's rather nice to just have the cream slapped on straight on your face as
Yes.
well. But I wanted to create a very helpless feeling for her.
I'm with
And
you.
so being bound up and having her face wrapped up in Glad wrap and so on, created that sense, a stronger sense of helplessness in that moment, which she needed. I also have somebody who comes to me, and when he first came, he was feeling helpless in his work environment and family, the elderly mother he's taking care of, and all sorts of things. And he's an overweight man, less so these days, and I take out my scale and I weigh him. I take all his body measurements. He sits and he discusses for about a half an hour just generally what's going on in life. He discusses his intimate life, his work life, everything, and then I give him a good caning that he leaves. He likes to be caned until he bleeds.
Sure.
Some people don't like blood, some don't even like bruises, as we mentioned, but he likes to be caned until he bleeds. And at the end, he gives me a hug and he goes off and he sees me again in a month's time. I love my regulars that come to me, so I will take people that are from out of town and so on, and only once-offs, but I love the loyalty of people that come back time and time again to me.
I find this so fascinating, and so when I'm dealing with some clients who really don't know how to let their hair down, we talk a lot about play in the relationship and how we can introduce that feeling of joy and aliveness, because we've lost that. We've lost it as adults. As children, we know how to play. There's no doubt about that. And with children exploring the world with senses, we touch everything. We put it all in our mouth. We smell things. We touch our bodies as young children. But we get to a stage in our lives where we shut that all down. And maybe because we're afraid of what would happen if we do subscribe to that playfulness. Who would we be? So what you're describing is that playfulness, that permission to go out there and just play. Be somebody else. Take on a different persona and really invest in that type of play. So I'm so fascinated by this. Thank you for bringing that here, because sometimes I do suggest that the couple use, I call it as well, which is what you said, soft BDSM, where they just take a cloth, a piece of fabric, they tie it around, they use it as a blindfold, take some soft fabric and tie the wrists together, whatever it is, for exact that reason, so that their other senses come aroused. So this is amazing. So tell me, what is different from what you offer to what, let's say, a BDSM dungeon, a party? What is that? What is the difference?
This is more of a one-on-one or a smaller gathering of just a few people involved. I do include other people sometimes. So, as I said, a little byplay, your transvestites together, if you've, but so 2 or 3, or just Mistress. It's a more exclusive experience than a party.
And I can imagine in that it's a lot more safe in terms of one would feel more safe having your attention, exclusively your attention.
Yes. In my space, it's very discreet. Nobody would know that you were there excepting for me, or if we called somebody else into that space. And those people have been vetted very carefully to be with joining in the session. And you have the possibility of the different rooms at my place and the garden play and so on. So it is a more exclusive and one-on-one experience.
I imagine that it probably feels more safe with you.
Yes, and in BDSM, it's very much about consent.
Correct.
Whether you're in my dungeon or at one of the parties, it's all about consent, and nobody may touch you in any way whatsoever without permission.
Yeah,
And that's strictly enforced.
yeah.
When you come to me, then we, as mentioned in the beginning, carefully discuss what your desires are. I prefer that you come to me with an idea of what it is that you want to do. And obviously, if you're new, you don't know everything that's on offer or what's possible and so on. But have an idea of what first brought you to me. What is it that you thought you might find, that you found arousing? So that, as I mentioned, everybody is completely different. I have a starting point. And if I think, well, he would like to be smacked, or she would like to be spanked, then if they like that, then they'll probably like this, and I can build your tailored session for you. But if you come without giving me any direction as to what you would like, you don't want any pain, you do want pain, you don't want bruises, you do want bruises, you don't want to be blindfolded because you had a scary experience, or you'd love to be transported into a completely different space. If you come and give me an idea of what it is that you want from your session, I can then build upon that. I'll see how you react to certain things, and I'll create this amazing experience for you, which both of us will then get aroused by and enjoy, and you may or may not be allowed an orgasm at the end of that.
This has been an incredible learning experience for me. And I thank you so very, very much for coming along and agreeing to be interviewed, even though I know that this is you love talking about what you do. And it's a real privilege for me to have spoken to you, so that people really get a sense of Mistress Salsa. So this has been an incredible experience for me, learning more about BDSM, learning more about you and the services that Mistress Salsa offers. And what I can also take away from this is the nurturing experience that you give to your clients, and that you are in tune. You're so in tune with what your clients want, and your ability to really go beyond what they're telling you. So that your insight is very inspirational. So before we close, I just want to know if there's something else that you'd like to tell our audience that you haven't.
I think that people often have the misconception that I'm supposed to be cruel and domineering and all the time. And I am that. I love the scent of blood, as I said. I do needle play and watching the blood, the needles piercing the skin and things like that is very arousing for me, the pain element. But I just as easily move into a space where I'm nurturing and caring and doing something sexy, whether it's your married couple that want to just put a little bit more spice into their relationships, and a little blindfold and soft sensual things on the skin with some candles and light music and sexy music and things like that, through to your harder and more hardcore fetishes. I think that it's all sexy, and I love to enable people in that way. I like to talk to people about things because they don't have an outlet on where to discuss their ideas and their fantasies and their fetishes, and I would love to see more people come and see me and enjoy this about themselves.
Well, I really do hope that you enlighten so many more people with and encourage them, to come and see you. So thank you very much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate your time too.
And Mistress Salsa is available on 083 355 0155. Again, that's 083 355 0155. And she is also on X, former Twitter, and Instagram, with your handle being?
Mistress Salsa.
So it's at Mistress Salsa.
At Mistress Salsa. And the email address is bdsm@mistresssalsa.com.
Perfect. bdsm@mistresssalsa.com.
If you do WhatsApp me, don't just send a one-liner, a hi.
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself and know what you want to talk to me about.
Yes.
And we can take it from there. I look forward to hearing from all of you.
Awesome. Thank you again. Take care.
Thanks.